Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Geoffrey Edwards. I am your host of Futsal868 Corner Talks. Futsal868 Corner Talks is an online meetup series where global sporting professionals share their experiences and perspectives on the fastest growing indoor sport in the world, futsal. Our hope is that this platform will sensitize and educate stakeholders whilst we sustainably grow the sport in Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean. This episode, episode 12, we head to India to talk to Yash Chugh. But before we go there, today, June the 21st, is Father's Day. And we want to wish all our fathers out there, spiritual leaders, mentors, providers, positive role models, a happy Father's Day. Without you, we could not be here. For me personally, I am at home. As you realize, the studio has changed. And I want to recognize my father, Prince Albert Churchill Edwards, who has been there with us from day one. And I say us in terms of all five of our siblings. And with that being said, I just want to take a moment to recognize my dad. And with this celebration, say Happy Father's Day to all. Happy Father's Day, Dad. It's because of you, the love of sports was embedded in me. So as I said before, our guest is Yash Chugh from India. And I want to say thank you very much for having this gentleman be a part of this segment, episode 12. So let's welcome Yash into the studio. Good day, Yash. How are you doing?
Hi, Jeffrey. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Blessed and highly favored. So just want to give a background in terms of who you are. You're a former professional futsal player in the famous and star-studded Indian Premier Futsal League and a member of the country's national futsal team. At Delhi Dragons and Chennai 5S, you played alongside Brazilian legend Ronaldinho. I mean, a lot of persons will die for that opportunity. And also Futsal Premier Falcão, respectively. Other legends of the game in which you have rubbed shoulders with, including Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Hernan Crespo, and Cafu. This is concerning that on Facebook right now there's a challenge whereby persons over a 10-day period have to be able to state who they help them become a football player or a football fan. And you have been able to rub shoulders with these legends of the game. You are currently pursuing an international master's in sports management, also known as the FIFA Master. Welcome to Futsal868 Chugh. And I want to say thank you very much for staying up. What's the time right now in India? Where you at?
It's 1:30 in the morning.
So I should say good Monday morning to you, sir. It's a pleasure to be able to have you with us. And to all our viewers, I would love to hear more as regards to who you are. And I guess I'm definitely know that our viewers want to know more about you. So tell us more about yourself.
Where do I begin? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here and giving me this opportunity to speak. To begin with, I've been playing since the age of 6 or 7. And since it's Father's Day, everybody needs to know what a big impact your father's and your mom as well. But my father is the one who kind of said, why don't you try this sport? Everybody tries cricket in our country. And I remember seeing a bunch of kids playing in my school thinking, what is this sport? Why aren't they playing cricket? That's the first thought that comes into your head because you've been born in India, you get cricket all around you. And yeah, and then I started playing for fun, and I ended up playing quite a bit, except I wasn't very successful. That's basically it. I wasn't very successful as a football player, but at the end of it, I kind of decided not to go down the route where I keep trying and I keep attempting to be a football player. And that was where it started. And by the age of 17, I knew that I would not want to play. And that's when I had the opportunity to go to Brazil and spend a year on the Rotary Youth Exchange Program, which is Rotary International Program, where they select people from across countries and you do a long-term exchange program. So you go for about a year or so. And I went there, and there at the age of 17 or 18, and if you're in school, all you play is futsal. It's so tight with the culture. It's so embedded in. Our school never had a football ground. Our school only had a futsal ground. So I ended up playing lots of futsal with everybody there. For the school, for people, with people around, with the Rotary clubs as well. So that was my introduction into the futsal world. And when I came back to India, I was working at this football facility in Delhi. And this one individual came up to me and said, Yash, that if you play, there's this league coming in India, which is off the back of the IPL and the sports revolution in India. This guy said, Yash, I kind of know the owner, but I need you to go in and just be in touch with them and make sure that you're alert when they call you in for the trial. So about 2 months later, after I signed up on their website saying, look, I have a little bit of a background with futsal. I had my boots ready. I had my everything that a player is really excited about his stuff being used and being able to play as a player and be given a platform, basically. And India never had a platform for futsal up until Premier Futsal happened. And that's where it began. So the format of Premier Futsal was that they would bring all these international stars, but they would give Indian players an opportunity to rub shoulders and be with them in the same teams, which for us was the biggest opportunity in the world. To be able to play with Ronaldinho, Cafu, Falcão, Giggs, Schole, all these people, it was fantastic. It was amazing for us to go through. And all of us Indian players will be eternally grateful to the three individuals who made Premier Futsal. Two of them were the main entrepreneurs that we dealt with almost on a daily basis, Dinesh and Abhinandan. For me, it was the biggest opportunity of my life, and I am eternally grateful to Dinesh and Abhinandan. And if they end up watching this sometime, thank you so much. But the process was, you sign up and you go to the trials, and they brought in a futsal coach, one of India's biggest futsal coaches. He came in and he said, okay, now let me see what level these guys are at. And they put us through 4 levels of rigorous testing. And in the first 10 minutes or so after my trial. So they made me wait for an hour where they test the other guys, and then you come in, you have a number. And they called out my number and they said, you, go sit. And at that moment, I just remember thinking, Jesus Christ, am I so bad? Am I not that good? And and then they...
Well, I don't think that you're that bad, because let's just take a moment from Eduardo, who says big shout out to the Indian Falcão. So I don't think that you might be that bad. Thank you very much, Eduardo, and to others who are chiming in. You definitely continue to do such. We'll put up your comments, your questions thereafter. So I don't think it might be that bad. Continue.
Oh no! So in fact, it worked out nicely, because they said you go sit, and then about an hour later, when everybody was done and the final 15 had been selected, they came over to me and they said, you had been selected already, don't worry about it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what happened. So anyway, about a month later, they called us to Chennai, which is another city, which is where the company was based out of, where they were hosting everything. And I got drafted into Chennai. Some players got drafted into other teams. There were 6 teams, if I remember correctly, 5 or 6 teams in each edition. And then it was great. It was a great opportunity. It was a great experience. I got to play with these guys. Except for Chennai, we didn't make it out of the group stage. We didn't get out. that was it. We had Falcão, but Falcão was hurt, and he had been carrying an injury when he came to us. But Falcão, as a person, as an individual, wow. I mean, people don't know this about Falcão himself. Everybody says that he is the Pele of futsal, and everybody talks about him like he would not behave humbly with us, but he is incredible. He is a really, really, really humble person, really humble individual. Till today he speaks to me, and he's the one individual from Premier Futsal that I really keep in touch with as well. Besides a couple of the people from the management, Navdeep, shout out Navdeep if you're watching this. Navdeep is someone who helped me throughout, even when I had issues in the second season. I've been red carded a couple of times. I've gone through a lot of stuff. Navdeep was always there with me as well. But Falcão, as an individual, as a guide, as someone kind of opening doors for you, he's told me till today, Yash, if you want to come to Brazil, you want to come stay, you want to come see what Magnus Futsal is like, come, I'll set up an internship for you. I'll set up a time for you to see it. And
can I be a manager or agent when they go down there?
No, just to work. It's not to play, because Magnus are doing really well, and I don't know if you've been watching, if anyone's been watching the Vai Pra Cima Fred, which is the futsal TV show that Magnus have done, which is fantastic. Gives everybody an insight into what a professional futsal club looks like. Which
so let's just take a pause for that, because I definitely would like to hear more as regards to that. But let's go back to what you were speaking to, your experience in Brazil. How long was it there? How long did you spend in
I was meant to stay for about a year and 2 months or so.
Right.
And I think I came back early so I could give Delhi University exams. There's one exam that you have to give in Delhi University to get in. And that exam happened to be like a couple of months before. So I just flew back early, but it was roughly about a year. So a little bit less than a year. And
so my question to you then is, can you talk us through the experience you had, an Indian kid coming from Asia to the holy grail of football and futsal? Can you give us the experience? Can you give us a day in the life of Yash in Brazil whilst at the academy? How did that look?
So for me, I mean, at Rotary International, you get the option to choose what top 3 countries that you want to go to, and if you don't get the first one, you get the second one. If you don't get the second, you get third choice. For me, I wrote Brazil, because I knew for a fact that that's where I wanted to be, and that's where everything for me was. They sent me to a very, very small city called Três Lagoas in the middle of nowhere. But in fact, that was a much better opportunity for me to learn the culture and see how close football is, and futsal, in fact, is with the national culture. I got to learn their culture, see what it's like, speak Portuguese, learn Portuguese. And the most importantly, I got to be a part of the futsal family. That was my entry into the futsal family. I had to visit school. I had to go to school. Rotary International asks you to go to school, except I had come back with from India. I had already finished my high school degree. So when I went to Brazil, I didn't have to study or anything in class. I could spend my time preparing for the futsal match that was coming up the week after. I would prepare for my trials. I gave trials at some football clubs. In fact, I gave one trial at Rio Negro. No, Rio. There was a football club where Oscar started, and Rio Branco, that's the name, and in a city called Americana, close to São Paulo, and I was a 19-year-old who went to trial with 17-year-olds, and I just remember walking out of there thinking, what's going on here? And it was really hard. The levels they have, the standard of football, of professional football in Brazil is incomparable to the rest of the world. I mean, it's comparable to Europe, but for someone coming from India, it was really hard. And it kind of gave me an idea on where I stand on the global scale, if I still wanted to think about going back to playing football professionally or not. The decision of not choosing to play professional football, in fact, came from a horrific injury that I had in 2010, right before the World Cup, where they discovered a cyst in my femur, which is the longest bone in your body, and they found out that I had a hole about that big in the center of my thigh. So in 2010, that's what happened. And that's when I decided, you know what, this is not going to be possible. Even if I get back to fitness, if I get back to playing, if someday I can play again, and then I get back to the same level that I was, I can go to a club and then they just do a medical and they just look at me and say, no, that doesn't work for us. So it was too much of a risk, and I wasn't prepared to take that risk. And my parents were very happy for me also not to. So in fact, the year in Brazil also helped me figure out if I wanted to get into what I wanted to get into. At the time, being able to look for opportunities in the sports industry was complicated for me, since my parents are both HR professionals and academics. They study. They're really good at studying. So nothing to do with sport, not inclined towards sport. The only time that they touch sport is when India wins the World Cup. They don't even watch the Cricket World Cup. They don't even watch the group stages. They don't watch anything. My parents only watch when India wins the World Cup. So they didn't watch when England won a couple of last year.
As you mentioned that, how did someone with parents who are academics, how did your parents allow you and said, this being Father's Day, how did your parents allow you and said, son, we respect your decision to go to Brazil. We respect your decision to become a professional futsal player. We respect your decision to go to FIFA Master and do sports management. Tell us a little bit as regards the relationship between you and your parents, and that in terms of sports management, in terms of involvement in sports as a professional.
So, I'm Martin Polly, if you remember. I remember one really, really important thing that Professor Martin Polly said to us in class. He said, the only thing about privilege is recognizing it. The only thing that you can do when you're in a position of privilege is where you can recognize it. And for me to recognize that I am privileged to have parents that allow me and have guided me in the right way is really important, because a lot of what I am today is because they set me up and gave me avenues. I think they're most important. I have really liberal parents. They don't pressure me into doing something. They allowed me to choose the career that I wanted to choose. They don't ask me to I don't have restrictions that way. But what they said was, you're not going to be at a mediocre avenue for whatever you do. Delhi University wasn't one of the best avenues for doing what I do, but it was something to set me up for my postgraduate degree, which I knew for a fact. So I've been researching postgraduate degrees for many years, and I knew since 2015 that I wanted to do the FIFA Master. In fact, some of the alumni, Ayush, if he's here as well, Ayush was great, and Harjas and Ayush, the two of them, they really guided me towards the FIFA Master. And anyway, so my parents guided me, and they were helpful throughout. And it comes from it. I'm lucky. I'm incredibly lucky that my parents did, and they just said, you're not going to be at a mediocre avenue for studying, for playing, for doing whatever it is that you have to do. You have to do it at the best level, and that's, I think, what kind of got me going and made me want to do well. And that was that.
So let's take a quick look at if for our viewers who might think that we're joking as regards to this, how great this guy is. He actually played with these legends. Let's just take a quick look at some of the pictures. This is you with Ronaldinho. Side by side, line up. You understand? This is you with Falcão. And that leads us to a question from one of the audience members who asked, how hard was it to remain focused on your job on the pitch when you knew you had idols on the pitch, players you've grown up with?
I think in the first few minutes and the first few hours, actually, you're still kind of, thanks to Yash. So Yash is a good friend. He's a journalist from India. So thank you so much for the question. But in the beginning, it's almost like, whoa, like you're in the same room as these people, and it's hard to fathom that you've seen these people growing up and then suddenly they're next to you. But it was after you get onto the pitch and then you're in that zone, kind of, I don't know how to explain this. All players go through this. Any player that you see speaking about nervousness or excitement, when you get onto the pitch, you have a job to do, and you're focused on it. And I think that's what ends up happening. But off the pitch, we'd be like really excited being around these people and around Ronaldinho and Falcão. I remember in the second season. So in the second season is when I had to play for Delhi. When I didn't play for Chennai anymore, I could play for Delhi. That's when Ronaldinho was my captain. And the first season is when it was Falcão. But in the second season, I had a really amateur level kind of red card given to me, where, you know, in futsal when you have to give the bib to someone to get substituted. I dropped the bib, and they gave me a yellow card, and then I got another yellow on the pitch, and then after that, in the semi-final, there was another yellow card given to another player for something else, and he got suspended. And then in the final, there was another red card for me complaining to the referee and lots of things going on. But I remember Ryan Giggs came to me and he sat me down and he said, I've played 700 plus professional matches for my club and many for my country as well. You need to know that you cannot disrespect the referee and you cannot undermine his power and his position on the field. And I think that's stuck with me for a long time. I think since we had that conversation and all the experiences that I had in futsal, I remember when he said this to me, I remember being really angry and then later thinking about it and then later saying, thank you for your word. And before he left Premier Futsal and the league closed down, it was really nice. Even Ronaldinho was incredibly sweet. He in fact asked me if I want to get married to a Brazilian woman. The answer to which I won't share over here. Yeah, he was,
is that why? Is it? I mean, and we are seeing these, as you say these things, people are popping up with these remarks. What a stuff, I mean, come on.
No, so I think he meant it more of a joke, but in fact, one of the things that I can never forget is, I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's a legend that goes with Ronaldinho, that the story is that when he was in Grêmio, he played in the south of Brazil in this club called Grêmio when he was a younger kid. He played a league association match for Grêmio, a junior match, where the score was 23-0 or I think it was 23-26, something like this, 0, and the other team didn't score 1. And the legend is that he scored all of those goals, and that him, even as a youngster, he was so far ahead and so far different from everyone else. Something that we recognize as well, that he had his way of doing things, and the way he moves. I don't know how to explain this. Like when you're close to someone, you can see how they move on the pitch. He moves differently, and his body moves in a way that is, I mean, it's really cliche to say samba, but he moves in a different style than anyone else. So
is it kind of that he dances? Is it kind of that he dances?
He has
music in his head that he just dances according to his own beat.
And I mean, they say in Brazil, it's a word that's used a lot in Brazilian culture. It's something called ginga, and I think that it's the best way to describe him. It cannot be translated directly. The word ginga is moving in a way that is kind of slow and quick when it has to be, but it's smooth. The word smooth and agile.
I hope that in Caribbean, in our Trinidad terminology, we say slow wine.
Okay.
We in our Caribbean terminology we say slow wine.
Exactly. It's the same.
So someone asked the question: who was your favorite stars? You mentioned Ronaldinho. You mentioned the advice from Giggs. Who was your favorite star foreign marquee player and why?
It would have to be Falcão. It would have to be Falcão because it's just thank you, Shubhankar. Shubhankar is a good friend as well from Gurgaon. It would have to be Falcão only because he's incredible. He's the things he's achieved in a sport that has not seen recognition for decades, and then to take that sport, make it your own, and then give a new platform for it across the world, make people look at the sport in a certain way. You can even see it in his management style today. He's Magnus Futsal happens to be a club that came up in the past decade, but is now recognized across the world as one of the biggest clubs in the world. It's just the way that he does things, the way that he speaks to people, the way that he's extremely. I mean, the first day we met, I told him, look, I might want to get into management and studying and working. The first thing he did was give me his number, and he said, Yash, speak to me whenever you need to. And we speak once a year, roughly. And he's a busy man. He does his things. I don't want to trouble him. I don't want to trouble him. But he's a great guy. He's very different from what it seems like when he's playing and when he's angry, and he's very different. He's really sweet. So
in terms of opponents, who would you say of the list of stars that you played against, who was the most influential to you as a futsal player and also as a person?
So each marquee player in his team had to get around and be with the Indian players and the other professional futsal players and kind of make it a system and make it a family. And that way, one of the people that weren't discussed was Salgado, Michel Salgado, the right back from Real Madrid. He was one of the legends as well. And Michel Salgado was easily the most. I mean, he would fight for his team off the pitch, on the pitch. He would be with his boys. I remember Anupam, this friend of mine from futsal. Anupam was in Salgado's team both the years, if I'm not wrong, and both the seasons of Premier Futsal. And Salgado was Michel Salgado. That's my answer, Michel Salgado. He just brings everyone together. He's like a father. He's like, everyone together, we do this, we fight for each other. And then you see him fighting on the pitch for them as well. And then that comes off the pitch as well. It was amazing. It was great to see.
Would you, if given the opportunity again to play professional futsal, would you?
I don't know. I honestly, it's India is having a new futsal. We'll go into that later, but India is having a new futsal league in the coming year, and I thought about it for a bit, but I think where my journey's gone since the second season of Premier Futsal, where I'm studying and I'm working, it's more work for me. I still play for fun. I'm not the best player in futsal in the FIFA Master 20th edition. That I'd like to say is Greg. Greg from France. Greginho. Greginho has the Ronaldinho Ginga. He knows what he's doing when he's on the pitch. So shout out to Greginho. He has something about him. I look at him and when he's playing futsal with us, and I just think, how did he think of that? What is that? So yeah, he's great. But I don't think I want to go back and play anymore. I think I'd rather manage and I'd rather work in it. And that's, I think, where I'm realigned since the second season of Premier Futsal.
So the last question for this segment comes from Agi, who asks, what's been your most memorable futsal match and why?
I think I'm not sure if it means like where I performed well or just one that comes into my head. Because if you ask me what comes into my head is where I performed really well was the quarterfinals of the second season of Premier Futsal, where Ronaldinho and my coach at Delhi Dragons was Javi Rodriguez, who himself is a huge legend of futsal in Spain. He's Barcelona's number 9 for like 10 years or so. Javi came to me, and great guy. He came to me and he'd speak Spanish with me, and I understand Portuguese and not Spanish, so I would like still try to understand and try to. But Javi said to me, Yash, I'm giving you Hernan Crespo today, and I said, okay. He's saying, no, if Hernan Crespo does anything today, I kill you. and I said, okay, this is a big job and it's a big duty that I have today. And I think in that match, I let go of Hernan Crespo once, and he had that one opportunity which my keeper made a great save of. But otherwise, I felt like I did really well because I had someone like Hernan Crespo to hold on to and not let go. And I was his shadow through the match, and it was more of a defensive, non-glamorous role because we had Ronaldinho to do the glamorous stuff. But to be right there beside Hernan Crespo and just hold on to him, let go of him once, but otherwise, I think I played really well in that match, and it was good. I think that game comes into my head. It was against the team that I used to play for, Chennai. So it was Delhi versus Chennai, and Crespo was there. So all of these things together. So it was a nice match for me.
So we'll end this segment on that in terms of a great memory down that lane. I'm going to say to all our viewers, thank you very much for looking at Futsal 868 Corner Talks. Those who are on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel, please go and subscribe, as well as like our page, Futsal 868, 868 being the area code of Trinidad and Tobago. So you're watching Futsal 868 Corner Talks with Yash, who is up at after 1 in the morning. Monday morning, that is. I want to say thank you very much. We'll be right back. Yeah, we caught you. We caught you taking this sip. That's fine. And we are back right now. A very quick break. Futsal 868 Corner Talks, just as what the sport is, futsal is quick. It's very quick, to the point. And we have something called Fun Futsal Facts here. It was a little bit difficult to find something interesting for as regards to India, but nevertheless, we want to be able to educate persons as well. So this is just a fun futsal fact in regards to India. The Futsal Association of India is the governing body of futsal in India, also known as FAI. FAI was formed in 2007 and is solely responsible for the management of the men's, women's, and youth futsal national teams. With that being said, it goes straight into what this segment represents. Yash, you have done studies previously before entering into the FIFA Master as regards to futsal. Please do share with us as elaborate as you can, time permitting, what your studies found as regards to the sport of futsal, and what did you concentrate on?
So the big question that kind of drove me to begin with, what drove me towards studying futsal and what made me intrigued about futsal and structures and platforms of national associations, and why we didn't have one in India before Premier Futsal, and why we had one, but that didn't last in the form of Premier Futsal in the big star-studded way, was the big question. It kind of drove me there and kind of made me want to study it. I spoke to a couple of experts, and I had Doug Reid, the captain of England, who was also involved in Premier Futsal when he was there with us, and Steve Harris from Tokyo speak to me about the way structures are formed and how you put in. And Kevin, by the way, from the 20th edition, the one you spoke to last week as well, shout out Kevin. And I have also had lots of discussions about what it takes to kind of inject a sport into a country, and why that doesn't happen with many minor sports across the world, where a minor sport does not have a big impact in certain said country. And Steve had a great opinion on this as well. And this is also after my studies, I kind of reached that kind of conclusion in my thesis, where for a sport to have an impact in a country and have a real cultural impact, it's less about creating a glamour product and a glamour league. It's more about, everybody says grassroots. What is grassroots? You start from the bottom and you make sure they play. But you and I had a conversation about this as well, Jeffrey, that you need to give people avenues to play. People should be able to play. And over time is when you build the high revenue glamour product. We did that with India. Did that with the ISL as well, with football as well, which is a great, fantastic product, brings great revenues in. Then they had to realize, and FSDL had to come back and say, we need you to have an academy. We need you to make sure that there's avenues for kids to play. We need you to make sure that there's kids can approach somewhere and play at a good level, at a high level. And I think that's what was missing for futsal, for India. And the fact that lots of us Indians had the opportunity to play with these players after obviously the selection process and everything that we had to go through to be there. The fact that we did get to play gives us a huge incentive to make sure that other people get to play. That doesn't have to mean with stars or with big people. It means we're inspired to help the newer generation to be able to play. And I think that's a lot of where my thesis comes from and goes towards. The one before this, I did my first thesis in 2016-17, 17-18, and that's about futsal and football development. And right now I'm actually finishing another thesis, which is on whistleblowing in sport and integrity, and lots of questions around that with my group, Igor, Sara, Taizo. So with them, we're working on this. But yeah, that's my take and a little bit of an idea of where I see futsal in India and where futsal can go.
So what would some of the recommendations did your paper suggest to the powers that be as regards to helping with the sport of futsal in India?
So a couple of the recommendations from the top of my head. We need to have a national school league, because every school, this is something that Kevin and I discussed as well, and we had a great conversation about this. This is something that he's in fact implemented in his country, where you use all the basketball courts in the country to make sure that there is a national school league. In India, we have something called the CBSE, which manages the education of all the majority of the schools in the country. Central Board of Secondary Education. So the CBSE hosts sport tournaments across the country as well. So for CBSE to be able to accept a futsal league would be fantastic, because it would set up all the students and all the kids to be able to play even if they don't have a football ground, which many schools in the country don't have. So that's one of the big ones. The second one would be to have, which is in fact not a part of my thesis in 2017, which is in fact David Goldblatt. I had asked David Goldblatt this. Everybody knows David Goldblatt's lecture in the FIFA Master and how it changes you, and it kind of, to me, it really shook me and really look at things in a different way. But when I asked him about what do you think is the most similar country where we could follow their footsteps almost identically and do something for the country, it would be Germany, where he said, your state leagues are your state leagues where everything is closed inside the state, and you're at the lower levels, you compete, you don't have to go too far in the state to play. So you travel maybe 2 hours, 4 hours, you don't travel too far to play. So the logistics of everything becomes closer and easier. This in India would be important when you set up an Indian league. The AIFF has done something fantastic. The AIFF is going to launch in the coming year the National Futsal League, which is what we've been hoping for, which is what we want. Lots of the clubs are from really far away, so the clubs have to, I think, invest money into it. I'm not very sure about it, but the clubs have to travel to the other locations and play matches. That thing, but on a state level, is very important. So this is another one of the conclusions and recommendations I would say to AIFF, which is now starting to recognize futsal as more than just a byproduct of Premier Futsal, which they did not recognize. So AIFF and Premier Futsal were not on the same page about a lot of things, and they didn't recognize each other. They weren't really helping each other, which wasn't the best for some of the players. Some players had to drop out of Premier Futsal because they were worried that the AIFF would ban them in their football clubs, and that was a fear that lots of players had. And I mean, I knew for a fact that I wasn't going to play professional football, but there were kids out there with me who did not play Premier Futsal because they were scared of AIFF. And I think it's something that they went through. But I mean, I hope whoever's made it. I know a couple of names who've really done well in the Indian professional system after Premier Futsal, but it would be putting them into trouble if I said their names. So I don't want to say their names. I won't cite them.
So, with cricket being one of the number one sports, it is fanatical. And yes, we in the Caribbean will know of cricket because a lot of our players, the Dwayne Bravos, the Kyron Pollards, the World Boss, would make it across, maybe trek across from the Caribbean to India on a yearly basis for the IPL, the Indian Premier League. It's very interesting that you could have gone the way of supporting the Indian Premier League or being a part of a product such as the Indian Premier League. But so my question is, why futsal and why futsal in a country that loves that game called cricket so much? Why? What do you expect to get? Not necessarily next 10 years, because that's a question that we see here in our chat. But what do you expect to get? What is your hope for your love for futsal to translate to? How would that be?
My big hope is that we have one national league. The one big hope that I have is that we have a sustained, consistent national league. If that means we grow from 15 days of a tournament once a year to 2 months, to 3 months, to 4 months, which is what the ISL is slowly growing to. Our National Football League, the Indian Super League. We have two national football leagues, so that's the weird part about it as well. But the important part is it has to grow, and for players to have a regular avenue to play at a high level is essential, and that's the one hope that I have. 10 years from now, if we look back and we see that we could have done things today that we didn't do and we didn't help. And I feel like AIFF is doing those things as of right now. They're trying to set up a basic futsal league, inviting all the clubs, getting them to play one tournament, even if it means they bring some of their legends, even if it means that they're playing with players that they've selected off a trial 1 month ago. It still represents their club, and they want to do the best for their club and play at a good level. That's, I think, really important. And I think AIFF is on the right journey towards it. Deepak is the representative of futsal in the AIFF. And Deepak and I had a conversation about this last month, and he said right now it's small, but give us time and we'll get the funding in and we'll get the growth in. It has to be organic. When you try to, it's like vanilla. Using the example of vanilla, you can take the tree of vanilla to any country you want, but vanilla, the pollinization of vanilla has to be done by hand. And I think that to be compared to making a sport grow in a country, you can start a league. It looks great, feels great. I'm eternally grateful. But we need the kids to be playing regularly and often so that they can play at a high level. And that's what sets us up equivalent to other nations. That's really important.
So you are a student of the 20th edition of FIFA Master, which leads us to this question. Now that you're doing the business of sport, I will paraphrase it in terms of understanding the business of sport through the FIFA Master. Has that made you fall in love with the sport of futsal more?
Oh, yeah. Because it's the eternal futsal question, which we all have different answers to and we all believe differently. Is it a great sport? Yes. Can it be a great product? Can it be a great business to earn money from and give money to players? Yes. Is it like that in our countries yet? No. And that's where we need to help. And that's where it needs us to make sure that as an entertainment product, it provides more and provides revenues. And I think that's really important for us. I think that's Like your conversation with me, Jeffrey. As long as you make sure that there's avenues for people playing, it will grow. And you make sure to be, even if it means going down and making the kids play, and making the kids play in an organized fashion with the right rules, with the right ball, in the right way. Because I don't know about you, Jeffrey, but I get really annoyed when people say six-a-side football is futsal. It's not. Six-a-side football is football. It's football played on a six-a-side pitch with grass. That's not futsal. Futsal is
It's the same way I feel. It's the same way I feel because in Trinidad Tobago's culture, we say small goal, football. And just the other day, I was having a conversation with one of our stakeholders, and I let them know that after months of thought of where we would like to be, if we are driving down the road and two 10-year-old kids, and you hear them shouting, "What are you going to do now?" And the other one says, "I'm going to play futsal," instead of saying, "I'm going to play small goal football or five-a-side," then as an organization, the Futsal Association of Trinidad and Tobago, I think, would have reached. Because now it is now becomes a part of the vocabulary. It now becomes part of who the demographics, who the people of Trinidad and Tobago are. Futsal is now part of who they are, is now part of their DNA. And I think that is where we are going. With that being said, because everything I did while at the FIFA Master was dedicated towards futsal, what was your best module or sub-module, and what conversation gave you the aha moment that was like, yes? And I know you had to go through it. It was like, yes, I am where I want to go. I give you for me, I'll tell you for me what was my own. Sports strategic planning with Mikel, because I truly recognize that without, as the Bible says, without a vision, man shall perish. I'm not preaching. I know it's Sunday in the Caribbean, but I'm not preaching. But I recognize that you have to have a plan in order to execute anything. Innovation is good, legal is good, compliance is good, but at that moment, that was my aha moment for me. What was yours?
yeah, it's funny you say compliance as one of the other ones as well, because we like compliance. We didn't love it, and the 20th edition as well. But for me, it has to be Professor Dino's. There's one exercise that he made us do where he said you take one of the clubs, and it was one of our exams in the Milan module, where he said you take a club and strategically discuss why it's successful and who's the leader, who's individuals coming in. And in one of those, there was stakeholders. And while doing that exercise, it kind of hit me that, wow, this is an organization that's doing well with all its stakeholders. And I think it has to be Dino's this. It wasn't even, it was, I remember that he had spoken about stakeholders in his class, but I think it was him giving us this thing as an exercise that kind of like, wow, it was Professor Dino. That was a great takeaway, and that was the big one that kind of stayed with me.
A very interesting question from Eduardo. And I mean, I was trying to find some way of how to fit it in, but I'm just going to go all out with it. I mean, it's really interesting. Eduardo, thank you very much for engaging with us, and it's lovely to hear you. And this is like off the chain. If you had a choice between India being World Cup champion in football versus World Cup champions in futsal, what would you choose? I'm happy that the question's being asked to you and not me.
Man, I honestly, only because of the amount of eyes that the Football World Cup brings. Football World Cup will bring huge amount of viewership to our country, recognition. I feel like it's a shorter journey for us to win the Futsal World Cup because we have the talent, we have the people, we have what it takes. that journey is longer. So I feel like it would be more gratifying to win or participate in a football World Cup, but to be futsal World Cup champions, that would be huge as well. So I don't know if I can answer. I don't know if I can choose one.
It's very
My love for
interesting.
sports is too much. It's too
It's
much.
very interesting that you said that it's a shorter journey to get to futsal World Cup. For Trinidad and Tobago, we are literally three victories away for qualifying for a futsal World Cup. Compared to what our men's national football team, the marquee team, has to go through to qualify for a World Cup through the CONCACAF Federation, is chalk and cheese. As an administrator who grew up in football, I would be biased enough openly here to say that I would love to see us qualify for a futsal World Cup. We have qualified for a football World Cup, so and that brought a lot of joy to Trinidad and Tobago. But at the same time, being a bit selfish, qualifying for the futsal World Cup is going to propel the next generation of futsal players, which is going to help us significantly. And if I had, as I said before, and if you go back to the history of India as regards to cricket and what cricket meant to them when they won the World Cup, and the history of hockey and where hockey was to the versus India versus cricket, you understand what it means of winning a World Cup. So I understand your predicament, but I just being a little bit selfish. I think that winning any of them, whether it be the World Cup in football, the World Cup in futsal, would definitely bring a lot of awareness to your country. It's just a matter of how it is the public relations go with it. Because winning any world sporting event is going to bring unity, going to bring love, and add value to whatever mission you're going down. To FIFA Master is your journey is almost coming to an end. How was it?
Oh, fantastic! There's no year in my life that has been full of so many things. It's you know this as well, Jeffrey. How was yours? How would you describe it?
Every time you speak to alumni, someone says is a year that you will never forget, and you think that it's so cliche. And even for persons who may listen to this a year from now and maybe thinking about doing the FIFA Master, I will say to anyone who is thinking about doing the FIFA Master, apply. It would be one of the most remarkable years or year of your life. So I totally agree with you. But how does that translate into your personal development as a sport professional and your journey for futsal in India?
So this is also one of the big questions they asked me in my FIFA Master interview, that you're a little bit early as compared. I was 25 when I was applying, and they said you're going to be done a little bit earlier. And are you okay with that? And everybody's going to be a little bit older than you. And I said, yeah. I mean, I'm really happy to learn, and that's my thing. I think to begin with, and to have people guide me and to have people give me an idea into where I should be going. So even now, when you and I spoke, when Stefania and I spoke as well about the futsal world and what work is like in the futsal world, it's complicated to come to the conclusion that it's not like football. That's the first conclusion that I came to, that working in futsal and working in football are two different things. And full time to be working in futsal is tough. And I think for me, the next step would be to be able to learn things that can be transferable towards futsal and development of futsal. And I think that's where I stand, and where the FIFA Master has really set me up really well to be able to even network, even us to be able to speak. This is happening today because of the FIFA Master, to be able to connect with individuals and professionals from the industry who invaluable. Like it's invaluable, and the kind of guidance that I receive from FIFA Master alumni as well, it's unquestionable. So I think it's set me up really well to learn and grow in the industry. Hopefully, one day I can convert all of the learnings that I do get in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to be able to give back to futsal in my country. Like you are, Jeffrey. You're giving it to the Futsal Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
And
And
I know that this is your show. This episode is Yash. But if I may, to yourself again, and also publicly to anybody who's listening in speaking to Kevin, one of your classmates, he introduced himself as an entrepreneur. And when it came to futsal, because he was chief cook and bottle washer, he was everything in one. He was a marketer, a sport administrator, public relations, communications, everything. And that is the beautiful part of being a part of an event, a sport that many persons don't know. You're building it from scratch. So my humble advice to you today would be to get involved, to do where there are no avenues, create your own. Where there are no lanes, create your own. You go pave that lane, put up electricity, mark it, mark the lane, put up signage, build your own community. Because eventually someone is going to see and someone is going to follow you and someone is going to be a part of it, but you have to do. You can't spend 1 year being a part of one of the best programs in the world and not translate that to adding value to who you are as an individual, as well as what your destiny has for you. And that's very important, because something I always tell my class, being the oldest in the 19th edition, was that there's a reason they choose us. There's a reason they choose 32 of us all around the world. And there's a reason they choose you, Yash. And you have to be able to now look back and decide what you want to do out of this thing called life, and just go for it. And so I just wish you all the best as regards to
thank you.
that. And as I said before, I know this is your show, but I just thought it fitting to be able to tell you that, and not only tell you, but anybody else who is listening, because this is what our platform is about: is to educate and to be able to help persons grow and develop us along the way. With that being said, where do you see futsal in India? It's a two-part question. In India, part one, and also Asia, part two, in the next 5 years.
Okay, to begin with, for India, I think in the next 5 years, it's about making sure that the initiatives that AIFF has put in place go to the next stage. If the next stage would mean quantifiable, we don't talk next stage. Oh, this player should be better. No, quantifiable. Can we make it to the Futsal World Cup qualifiers, which is probably 4 years from now? Now it's 4 more years. But can we make it to the Futsal World Cup qualifiers? Do we have a national league regularly, which AIFF has put into place now? Do we have the state leagues going? And is it a part of CBSEs? So in 5, not even 5 is a little bit early, but within 10 years, if we can get these steps and these actions taking place, nothing else. If we have these 4, we're moving in the right direction, and that's what we're doing. As of right now, we have the National League, which is being set up. We don't have a national team from AIFF. We have a Futsal Association of India team, which is different, which is the one that I took part in and played a bunch of places with. For me, in Asia, in the world game, this is what I try to explain to most people. Everybody thinks that Asia's a little bit further behind in football. But in futsal, Jeffrey, we know how good Iran is. Brazil was knocked out by Iran in the last World Cup. We know how good Asian teams are. Kazakhstan, Oman, we know how good they are and how they can really go. Hossein Taibi is one of the world's best players, and nobody knows about him just because he's Asian. Yet the biggest clubs in the world want Hossein Taibi. Like it's very clear. And I'm sure if Steve Harris is watching this, he'd have a lot of things to say. He's by far the most knowledgeable guy in terms of world futsal and world what clubs are signing whom and which coach is getting dropped. I think he knows everything. Steve, if you're watching this, please tell me if I've said something wrong. But yeah, that's my take on it. AFC is really strong in futsal, and I think we got to harness that a little more as well. And I really want to see an Asian team reach the Futsal World Cup final 1 year from now, August 2021. So Futsal World Cup. I hope Trinidad and Tobago can make it, and I hope an Asian team can make it as well. But I don't think India is participating. We don't know yet, but I hope we can. I hope this message reaches someone somewhere in FSDL or AIFF. Please set up a futsal team, and please set up a national setup. I'd love to be part of that as well if you do. And all the knowledge from Jeffrey, Kevin from Philippines as well, and AFC would be an honor to help. And that's the big shout out to AIFF. Please, if you can set it up. And
so, one last question from our audience. This comes from Eduardo. Eduardo, I want to say thank you very much for being. If we had a prize for being the most vocal per episode, you would be for this episode. I want to say thank you very much for your support. From Eduardo, how important do you think it is for the global development of futsal for commercially strong markets to really adopt, and I will use the word as well, adopt and adapt the game? Example, England, Germany, France, United States, etc. And that is an exceptional question. Exceptional.
Fantastic. Wow. Jeffrey, do you want to go for this first? I'll go after you.
Well done.
I think I really want to prepare myself, because I know for a fact that Germany and France has been there for a while, but Germany set up their national team this past year, I think.
Correct. So, you're quite correct as regards to that. And as regards to the United States of America, also Canada, I'm going to be very strong-worded here. Futsal has always been more of a recreational sport than a competitive sport. And especially in the US, it wasn't even futsal. It was more under my men's national futsal team coach, Mr. Constantine Constant, who is from the United States. Most of the times they were actually playing indoor soccer, which was off the wall. And there has been conversations, and I had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Keith Tozer, who is the commissioner of the US Futsal League. They are actually going to start their league and develop it. And they have a lot of powerful businessmen who are backing them. Even within the US, they have been taking old basketball courts and tennis courts and refurbishing them for futsal specific, but also for multiple sports where futsal can be played as well. So we've seen that there has been increased development as regards to futsal. For us in the Caribbean, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, we see futsal as the T20 of football. And I use the word T20 because you saw the power of what T20 does in terms of cricket, through the CPL. You saw where sports, which is entertainment, but you actually saw a great marriage of sports and entertainment in a true sense of the word, coming together. And I think that a lot of persons, in terms of the entertainment value of futsal, they are seeing that. Why? Because futsal itself is very similar to the NBA in terms of what you can be able to do, in terms of the engagement you can have with your audience. And if it is, you just take the NBA's business model and entertainment model and you apply it to futsal, I think that everybody will be able to see it. And we all know from the FIFA Master that there are two business models of sport. You have the United States and you have the European. So I think that the conversation is being had, that and as regards to the power of futsal, given this whole COVID-19 scenario as well, I think that futsal has a greater opportunity to take off. Just look at what's happening in the stadium around the world with big clubs. If that was for futsal, I mean, the product, in my opinion, the viewing product would have been even better. So I really believe that we have the opportunity as a sport to be able to to be commercially viable and in the territories that Eduardo mentioned, but also throughout the world. So that's just my take on it. I hope I give you enough time to think and add value.
I believe so as well. It's really important, and I think something that Kevin and I discussed a lot, really privately as well, and Kevin and I, if nobody knows, Kevin is the president of the Philippines Futsal Association, and him and I stand on the same page about the regular notion of futsal just being a feeder product to football to be completely abolished. And that's, I think, where, I think that's where this question as well is kind of tied in, that Germany and England and the USA, they have good national football leagues, the USA, but they have national football leagues, but they have money coming into their national futsal leagues. And should they be recognizing futsal as a big product so they can help it? Yes, they should. They should recognize it, but they have to recognize it differently. They have to look at it differently. Futsal in itself is the product. It's not a feeder baby product. And someone coming from India, we're really far behind in terms of even this conversation. But some futsal family believes that it really needs to be tied in with football. Some of us believe that futsal in itself can be a great revenue generating product as well, which I would say the day you see futsal being its own revenue generating product, that's when you see this question answered on your own. And I believe it can be answered by futsal being a revenue generating product by itself. So that's my 2 cents on futsal and the journey.
So my question to you, my last question to you would be, and this is a out of the box question, given everything that is happening with the Black Lives movement and the whole issue of the BLM movement in the United States of America, what is your take on what's happening in the United States of America and its effect on sports globally?
I think what's most important to recognize is that systemic oppression should be called out and should be recognized by governments and systems everywhere across the world if there is any kind of systemic oppression going on. And the fact that it had been going on for so many years, with even the oppression being shut down, with the movements being shut down, with anyone who calls it out being shut down, goes to show how far behind the movement was and how governments just had the opportunity to shut it down. The fact that sport is today being used as the best platform to voice the concerns of the public, of people who went through a lot and who've been through systems where systemic oppression, to put it exactly like it is. Being someone from the sports industry makes me proud. The fact that it can touch people's hearts and it can be a platform for people to share what they feel. Exactly like we are on this platform, you and I talking about futsal, for example. Sport touches people's heart, and people need to recognize that sport can be used in the wrong way as well, but very often needs to be used in the right way. And I think the movement to use sport to reach people's hearts and to touch people and to make sure that they know about what's going on is, it just makes me proud to be a part of the sports industry, the global sports industry. And a really small example of Nike recognize. I'm a boot fiend, so football boots are my thing, and I've always recognized when a boot brand or a boot company does something that is beyond any other ones. And Nike always has a Nike Mercurial every 4 years, which they dedicate to the Black History Month. And I think they're very aware of their movements and what they do. And there has to be sport used as a platform to reach people. And I think that's very important, and it's a very good thing the sport can do. So that's my take on it.
I want to say thank you very much for that passionate answer. Last year, my group looked at transgender and intersex in sport, and it's very interesting to be able to understand that social injustice and racial inequality occurs at all levels of sport. And just as Nelson Mandela has famously said, what sport can do, as our tagline at the Futsal Association is stronger together. And it's very interesting that in this day and age where technology can bring us together as we are doing now, that sport has an even greater opportunity to do such. And what a brilliant and perfect way to be able to end this session. I can't believe that an hour and 10 minutes have flew by so quickly. I want to say, and you are still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as we say.
Oh, I'm really awake now. The last question got me really awake, and it's a good time to do my final project research now. So
yeah. I want to say thank you very much, Yash, for taking the time out to speak to us.
Thank you.
I wish you all God's richest blessings in your future endeavors. I will be looking on and cheering on for every single one of the presentations for the final project. And I know that you all will be able to will bring it. And I really want to see great things for you in futsal. Keep in contact with us at the Futsal 868 family. And we'll definitely, as well as, the Caribbean is here for you for cricket, futsal, and great weather and great beaches as well. So find yourself down here at any time. We'll have a pickup game or two. And I want to say thank you very much to you and to your family. And to your dad it's Monday now for you, but wish him happy Father's Day belated on our behalf. I want to say thank you very much, Yash. All the best to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, and thank you so much for having me here.
You're welcome, brother. You're welcome.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Definitely. So that was Yash, and that ends episode 12 of Futsal 868 Corner Talks. And as Yash says, we want to be able to let you all understand that this platform will be continuous to be used for positivity. And with that said, I just want to take a quick moment to continue our discourse, our discussion as regards to racial inequality and social justice. Futsal 868. Futsal 868 Corner Talks. Stronger together. So with me is the man who has made me who I am. And his name is no other than Prince Albert Churchill Edwards. I want to take this day, senior, sorry, yes, sir. I want to take this day to recognize my dad. Happy Father's Day, Daddy. Thank you very much for the passion that you have instilled in me in terms of your love and your guidance. You have been with me every single day. And I want to thank you for everything. So to all, this is a gentleman who has made us at Futsal 868 possible. Without him, there is no me. And once again, I want to end the show by saying Happy Father's Day to all, and to my king, my superhero, Prince Albert Churchill Edwards. And with that being said, wish you all the best, and to all the fathers out there for the rest of the day, Happy Father's Day. God's richest blessings. Until next week, see you later. Bye-bye.